Arthur Schopenhauer did not start as a pessimist. He was not born believing that life is a cruel joke, that morality is a tool for the powerful, or that human existence is a battle where only the ruthless triumph. He learned it through experience, betrayal, and observation. His journey began like many others, filled with ambition, curiosity, and unwavering faith in reason. But by the time he formulated his masterpiece, The World as Will and Representation, he had become a philosopher of darkness, a thinker who exposed the brutal and mechanical truth of life. His conclusion was clear: life is not fair, power is not moral, and those who reach the top are rarely the best among us. Schopenhauer's philosophy did not emerge from an ivory tower. It arose from pain, failure, and seeing the world as it truly is. He was supposed to be great. Johanna Schopenhauer, his mother, was a renowned writer, and his father was a successful merchant who expected him to inherit the family business. However, from an early age, Schopenhauer saw that the world was not governed by intelligence or justice, but by cunning, social influence, and brute force. His father, whom he admired, viewed the world unfiltered, not through idealism but through harsh reality. The world is not a rational place, and men are not rational beings, Schopenhauer wrote. His father died under mysterious circumstances, whether by suicide or accident. His mother, a celebrated writer with an influential social circle, rejected him due to his somber and critical nature. Over time, their relationship became unsustainable, leading to a permanent estrangement. When he finally published his magnum opus, he expected recognition, prestige, and a place in history. Instead, he was met with silence. His work was published at the same time as Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel's, a man he despised who dominated academia. Schopenhauer hated Hegel not only for his ideas, but because he saw him as the embodiment of fraud, someone the world rewarded. With an arrogant and disdainful attitude, Schopenhauer openly opposed Hegel, even scheduling his lectures at the same time, convinced that his thought would prevail. But reality was different. While Hegel gathered crowds, Schopenhauer's classroom remained empty. Hegel did not prevail due to the depth of his thought or intellectual superiority, but because he understood the mechanisms of power and knew how to consolidate his influence. Meanwhile, Schopenhauer was marginalized, and his work went unnoticed for years. This exclusion not only affected his career but also shaped his philosophical worldview. His greatest intellectual compensation came from his deep study of Eastern philosophical traditions, particularly Buddhism and Hinduism, whose concepts decisively influenced his thinking. Schopenhauer realized that human nature is not rational, but biological. We are not moral beings seeking justice, but organisms driven by a blind and irrational force he called the will to live. This will is neither altruistic nor compassionate, but an implacable, greedy energy oriented toward survival and domination. Man can do what he wills, but he cannot will what he wills, he wrote, highlighting the illusory nature of free will. Every thought that arises in the mind is not a conscious decision, but the result of deep impulses and conditioning beyond the individual's control. Those who ascend to power are not necessarily the most just, but those least burdened by conscience. The good hesitate, the ruthless act. The good question themselves. The ruthless impose their will. The good desire justice. The ruthless create the rules that ensure they always win. The will to live does not care about justice, nor is it interested in goodness. It rewards those who dominate, manipulate, and seize power. But why does this system keep repeating itself? Because the will to live is not only blind but also deceptive. It does not present itself solely as brute force, but wears masks, disguising power as virtue, coercion as cooperation, and oppression as necessity. The greatest trick of the will to live is convincing even the most ruthless that they are just, that their dominance is justified, and that their success is the result of merit rather than manipulation. This is why the most successful tyrants, corporate magnates, and political despots do not see themselves as villains but as inevitable. Yet, this illusion does not only exist among the powerful, but in all of us. Schopenhauer believed that most people do not act out of pure rational thought, but due to deeply ingrained biological impulses. The need to conquer, control, and accumulate are not rational choices, but primary instincts disguised as ambition, success, and power. History repeats itself because those who gain power believe they were destined for it, and those who suffer under their rule have been conditioned to accept their fate. Schopenhauer saw human history as a brutal cycle in which the strong always win, not because they are better, but because they are willing to do what the weak will not. However, Schopenhauer did not advocate surrender or suggest that we embrace the will to live and become ruthless. Instead, he warned us to see the game for what it is. The world is not governed by principles of justice, but by the drive of will, strength, and deception. If you do not understand this, you will always be at the mercy of those who do. There's no need to take Schopenhauer's word for it. History itself is proof. Julius Caesar promised democracy but dismantled the republic to become a lifelong ruler. Napoleon Bonaparte spoke of freedom, but crowned himself emperor, refusing to kneel before any king. None of these men were the most moral or the most intelligent. They were the most strategic, audacious, and visionary. They did not see the world as it should be, but as it truly was. The most unsettling reality is that the world did not punish these men. It rewarded them because power is not won by those who deserve it, but taken by those who understand it. Schopenhauer understood something most refuse to accept. People do not follow the good, they follow the strong. But history turns even darker. It is not just that cruel people rise to power, it is that society helps them do so. Think about this and ask yourself, who writes history? Who controls the narratives that shape our understanding of the world? The victors, the rulers, those who have understood the game. Caesar did not just seize power, he convinced the masses he was their savior. Napoleon did not take France by brute force. He used charisma, propaganda, and fear to make people beg for his rule. The leader who appears decisive, powerful, and dominant, even if corrupt, will always have followers. The reason is simple. The perception of authority generates obedience. A manipulator who understands human nature and knows how to exploit fear, desire, and ambition will easily control the masses. Social psychology demonstrates that people tend to follow figures who project confidence and power, regardless of their moral integrity. And this is the most astonishing illusion of all. Those who suffer under power are often the ones who reinforce it the most. Nietzsche saw through this lie and called it slave morality. Over centuries, power structures have been redefined through ideologies that favor the containment of strength. Nietzsche rejected the dichotomy of good and evil, replacing it with the opposition between power and weakness. Nature does not reward kindness, it rewards the ability to impose and prevail. The real tragedy is not just that the strong dominate, but that the weak willingly surrender their autonomy. History repeats itself because humans tend to submit to corrupt leaders, adhere to ideologies without questioning them, and allow others to dictate the rules of the game.
Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, leave a like and a subscription. If you could keep listening to the video until now, congratulations. You are a warrior who have the capacity of bringing attention for a long time. Leave a comment saying this: I'm brave. Then you will let people know that you have the brave to improve your life quality, and you'll try to be better each day. Now bye until the next video. A big hug from the being of knowledge.